Hi all, welcome back. It's a new school year, and with the new school year, we have new webinars. So in this first of two-part Schoology webinars, we have Trish Kelleher here, who is our resident Schoology guru. Trish, do you want to tell us about what we're going to be covering this time?
Sure. In this webinar, we're going to talk a little bit about setting up your Schoology course and some basic things that you should have set up from the beginning of the school year, or you've probably already set it up, but quick things you can change to make sure that you have it set up correctly. And we're also going to talk about organization, which if you've seen any of Katie and I's webinars, we are kind of big on the organization. So we're going to give you some quick tips on how to keep your course organized to make it easier for students to navigate and easy predictability for them.
Great. And then we're going to be back in 2 more weeks with part 2 of this webinar, in which we're going to talk a little bit more about the gradebook and some notifications. So let's get started with this one. Okay, so I'm going to walk you first with how to set up your course. So I'm going to go into my current Schoology course that I have here, and you'll notice I have my own little test course, but there are a few things we want you to keep in mind when you start creating your course, or you have already started creating your course, as there are so many courses in the district, and sometimes it can be really hard to find a specific teacher's course, depending on the way that it's named. So there are a few things that we ask for you to have in the actual name of your course. We ask you to have the name of your school. We ask you to have your last name. And then really after that, you can put any information you want. If you want to say what block it is, or if you want to use the subject and then the course title, that's fine. But the first 2 things we really need to have in your course is the school name and then followed by your last name. Right, Trish?
Yeah, and once we get up into the course options here in the setup, I would say the way Katie has it here, where her sections are named her blocks, is a great way to name your sections. I know sometimes they just default to section 1 and section 2. And I've seen teachers not change that, and I think that can be confusing.
So I want to, sorry, Trish. So I wanted to show you quickly how you would edit a course that you've already created. So here I am inside my course. Underneath my picture, I see this button that says course options. From here, I want to select that option and hit edit info. And this will bring me to a page that allows me to edit the details of my course. So you'll notice my school is already filled in for me. My course name, if you have named your course incorrectly, this is where you can retitle it. So I could say NNHS, my last name, and I can put anything afterwards. So if I teach French, maybe I do a 10th grade CP, I could put that in there too, but I'm just going to use mine as technology for now.
So I just wanted to point out, Katie, if you notice when Katie's typing in the name of her course, other Schoology will auto-populate with other course names that already exist. Be super careful that you don't accidentally select one of those courses, because it's a little bit difficult for us to take that out. You don't want to press return. Once you've typed in the name of the course with your school name, your last name, and the subject, and whatever information you want after that, click on the right side, right there in the white space outside of that field, and it will put your course name. It's really easy to accidentally select one from the drop-down, so try very hard not to do that. It's easy to select it, not super easy to get rid of it.
Great tip. So the other thing I will also want you to make note of is below all this information, where you can actually change your section names, like Trish was saying before. If it's still a section 1 or section 2, you can enter the name of the blocks or the periods that those students are coming to you. But below that, where it says the grading period, this is really important too, because there's a long list of grading periods you have to scroll through to find the 4 that you need. So for example, I'm here at North, and I want to make sure that I select all of the North grading terms. So I'm going to scroll all the way down until I find North Quarter 1, 21-22, North Quarter 2, 21-22, and I want to make sure I have that done for all 4 courses before I hit save at the bottom. If I do not have all 4 courses selected, what might happen is at the end of quarter 1 or term 1, that ends on November 5th. On November 6th, when I log into Schoology or my students log into Schoology, my course is gone. It actually was archived for you, which means then you have to go into your archive courses and re-add your grading periods. So just a friendly reminder to make sure you have all 4 of those selected.
And you'll notice that the active grading terms are bold and the ones that aren't active yet are grayed out, which is, I think, a little confusing because when you see something grayed out, you think that you can't select it, but you absolutely can. And one other tip, if you scroll all the way to the bottom of the grading terms, there's always a district PD grading term that we use on the district level for PD courses and special circumstances. It is really important that you do not select this for your grading, for your courses that are for students in regular grading terms, please.
All right, now that I'm done, I'm gonna hit save.
You know what, Katie? Because those grading terms are really cumbersome to scroll through, I think that a good check is if you go back to your course, once you've saved your grading terms, take a quick second to scroll down a little bit and make sure that you have the correct grading terms. It's really easy to select a grading term from a previous year or to forget one of the 4 quarters of one of the 3 trimesters, depending on what school you're at. So I would definitely, once you've checked that, look at your grading periods and make sure you have the correct ones that are attached to your course.
And the last thing I want to show you is the option to be able to link or unlink a section. So you'll notice that for my courses in the title, it's NNHS Collins Technology 2122 A block and B block. And that's because I have 2 sections here. If I had another section, say I also taught E block, I could remove where it says section 1 and I can write E block here and then update my course. That means that all of these courses are, all these sections are linked together. So if I'm posting the same materials to my A block, my B block, and my E block, I can all have them live in the same course and assign them possibly at different times, give them different due dates. But this helps me out because then I'm not jumping from 3 separate courses, like an A block course, a B block course, and an E block course, and having to post to the same materials to each one separately. So by linking all these courses, it allows me to just post to one course and then individually assign due dates or publish at different times. If you have linked a course and your students are already submitting work, it is a little challenging to then unlink it halfway through the year. We actually don't recommend it, right, Trish? It just gets a little confusing with the grades and the work they've submitted and the possibility of losing that. But if you have sections, if you have 2 courses created and you want to link them, you can just reach out to your building ITS or Trish Kelleher and we can walk you through that process.
All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about your materials organization. I think it's really important for students to have a predictability of courses and what to expect within each course. Each of their teachers don't have to have the same idea of organization, but as long as they can predict for each course how their materials are organized. And that might mean by unit and subject, or it could mean by week or, date wise, but as long as it's consistent and in folders and organized. I can't tell you how many times I've seen courses that are just lists and lists of documents and links.
Let me show you a good one. Let's look at Trish's course.
This is not one I share with anybody but Miss Collins.
Sorry, it's a great example.
This is a great example on how to really confuse your students, as it really is. As a student, as a user, this is entirely too much for me. But if we go back to Katie's course.
Well, wait a second. Trish is the queen of analogies. So Trish, I'm not going to let you out of this one. Please use your analogy about how you treat paperwork in your classroom.
Oh, so the example of my course, we can click on my course again. If this was a physical space and this was my classroom, I basically have taken all of my coursework and anything important that students need to see and use, picked it all up and thrown it onto my central table at the front of the classroom and said, you can find it. Don't worry, it's in there. And our students are just rifling through the table trying to find their documents. Now, if we went into Katie's classroom, go into your classroom, there would be a shelf that had file folders and everything would be really easy to find for students. So let's talk a little bit about how we can get our classrooms to look a lot like Katie's and not like mine.
I'm so honored. Just kidding.
You
So
should be.
one thing we really want to stress is the use of folders in your classroom, and to think about at the beginning of the year, or even right now, we're only 1 month in, how you really want those folders to be organized. Are you going to do it by unit? Do you want to do it by week? I know last year in the remote setting that we started with, it was really helpful to do it by week. And I think that's what we originally had suggested, but this year might feel a little different. It really depends upon what you're teaching. So just think about that as you start to organize your online classroom. So I like to organize mine depending upon the unit I'm teaching. And I'm going to start a new folder for an opinion writing unit that I'm going to be doing or teaching. So one way is to go into add materials and add a folder. Now, what happens if I add a folder this way, or any piece of content material, is that this is going to go all the way to the bottom of my Schoology page. And then if I want it to be up at the top, I'm going to have to drag it all the way up, which can be a little annoying. So I have a little fun tip for you. If you hover in between a material, like a folder, you'll notice that that gray line turns into a green dotted line. If I select that green dotted line, it brings up that same pop-up box you saw that when I just clicked added material. So from here, I can say, I'm going to add a folder, and we're going to call this folder opinion writing. And I can change the color if I'd like, and I can add a description for this folder if I find that it's necessary. When I'm ready to create the folder, I select the blue create button. And you'll notice that instead of it going all the way to the bottom of my Schoology page, it now appears here second in my course. So that's our first fun fact. The second thing I want to show you is that when you add a material to a folder, so say here, I'm just going to add a regular assignment that students are going to be submitting to, I want you to think about being as descriptive as possible when creating the name of the assignment and also the description. So for example, if I'm going to have students submit a free write, so this might be free write number 1, opinion. So I'm going to paste in a description that explains to my students exactly what I want them to do. I want them to create an assignment using the create feature under the submit assignment button. This is where I would also modify any other settings within my assignment that I wanted to have for my grading, my scale, my rubrics, any categories, and then I can hit create. So that when my students come into this folder, they not only see a descriptive title, but they also see exactly what to do. So whatever I'm going to verbally explain to my students in class about this assignment should also be part of the description that I'm writing in online.
Katie, can I just point out one thing about the description? Can we go into the gear and edit that assignment so we can add a little bit more to the description? This is also a great place. If you have a link to readings that would be pertinent to this assignment, you can use the link feature up at the top of your formatting tool, and you can link to websites or anything else. If you have a document you want to upload or an image you want them to look at as part of the prompt of your writing assignment, or for science, if it's an image that they need to be looking at for part of their reflection, you can add a lot of things to this description that essentially everything they need for this assignment can be right there and readily accessible to them to get their assignment done.
It's really helpful for the students to have all the materials they need right there.
All right, let's go back to the materials. Katie, I'd love to show them inline pages, and I know that I'm a huge fan. Some people aren't, but I'm a visual learner, and sometimes there are certain things that I want more visible. Right now, Katie's course is super organized, and I love that she has the folders by units. I want a little kind of description at the beginning to just give my students a heads up on the materials section and what it means, but I want them to see it as soon as they hit the materials section. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the green line at the top because I want this to be at the beginning. And remember when we click on that, it brings up the add materials menu, and I want to add a page. So this is a Schoology page that typically you can add content, and it will, you click on it and it opens and the students can see it if you're not adding a Google Doc, but you want it to just be a quick page in Schoology. I'm going to give it the title of the course organization. And then as my description, I might put some images, or I want to say, welcome to chemistry. We'll pretend this is a chemistry class.
We're covering so many subjects in this course.
Right, we're writing our, honestly, welcome to chemistry. Looking forward to an exciting year. Notice that coursework is organized by unit and not by weeks. Now, if I just saved this page, the students would have to click on it to see that content. So if you look, it's going to show up at the top of my course materials. The student clicks on it and they see the content. But you know what? I want them to just see it. When they get to materials, I want them to see that. So in the gear, while we're editing this page, if you scroll down to the bottom where it says options, there is the second option is grayed out, and it looks like a piece of paper with an ABC on it. And that's a display on new page. If you select that and then save changes, it basically is like I have that open piece of paper on top of all of my folders. So as soon as the student comes to the materials page, they can see this. Whatever I've written in that page is already open, and it's a quick kind of visual reference of something I want them to see every single time they come to the materials section. So if there's something that you feel like you want them to see or read when they get to the materials section, this is a great place to put that and to make it an inline page so that it shows up every single time. And it can be something you change. It might be something that you change at the beginning of each week, or it might be something that you just have there for the entire course. Another thing that I find a lot of teachers add are links. And if you go to add a link, you can add links to websites, outside websites, or Google documents. A lot of teachers will link their Google Docs here. So when you get your share link to a Google Doc, you can enter it here. Sometimes you might have multiple Google Docs that you want to share. You can add an individual link for each document if you get the share link for each document if you'd like. But if you have a folder that's full of documents that you want students to have access to the whole thing, you can also get the share link of that entire folder and put that into your into your Schoology.
So what I did here is I just grabbed the link from my folder that had all my anchor charts about opinion writing, and I can add that entire folder here as a link for my students so that when they're coming back and thinking about what we've learned in class, they can just select that link in which they'll just be able to see all the anchor charts that I had posted.
So this really just depends on how you like to organize your course. Some teachers like to do multiple links to directly to the documents, and some teachers have their Google Drive super organized and would prefer to just link to the folder. Personal choice, there's not a right way or wrong way, as long as your links and materials are titled and described nicely and organized in folders. How you do it, whether you do individual documents links or folder links, I don't think it really matters.
All right, thanks for joining us this week, everyone. So just a reminder that all the things we talked about can be found on the Schoology Showcase, which is a course that was designed to kind of give you an idea of what you can do in Schoology and also show you examples of what it looks like. So for example, it goes through assessments, discussions, adding assignments, the grade book. It talks about the course setup, all those things that we've covered. So if you want to join the course, we have the access code here for you. It's available for everyone. And we're just glad that you joined us. So
Yeah, so take a look at the showcase. If you find something you really want to do and you're not sure how to do it, contact your building ITS or me, and we will help you walk you through it and get you to the right place and get you going.
great. All right. Thanks for joining us, everyone.